Hey there, I'm Eternal, and I'm an object show fan that has barely watched any object shows. We have to fix that. Let's play Object Catchup. Welcome in to Object Catchup, this series where we talk about object show episodes right after watching them, whether they are new or old, famous or unknown. It doesn't matter. We will get to it all. Now, today it could be a relatively big one in terms of how many things that we're going to be taking a look at because, throughout the days, even if I haven't been covering them, I have, of course, been keeping a little bit of a track of what shows exist, what has had uploads in the past little week. And we have to be able to discuss them eventually. We have to talk about them, discuss them, and all that jazz. So today, that is what we're going to be doing. I'm going to be going through my list of things, right? Of shows, the ones with not many the ones that are relatively fast, and then we are going to be taking a look at all of them today, all right? And then we're going to be leaving tomorrow for the lock Vasion stuff that we'll have to see depending on the decision that I end up making. I'll probably have 3 days focused on it is my prediction. However, yeah, I guess I just have to see. I'm not 100% sure. It kind of depends on when they release everything. Maybe tomorrow isn't the day that we do the Law Evasion because it could release on the night of the 31st, in which case I wouldn't be able to do it, right? So in that case, we take a look at some extra additional stuff. Maybe do a Object Invasion Day 1 before it releases. I'm not really sure, but we're gonna need to take a look at it. But either way, we are now going to be taking a look at a lot of little tinier things here, and discussing them in detail. So let's start off here with. All right. Yeah, it's a show that had its second episode released today. It is titled "BattleToBeAdopted," which is a very interesting premise, I gotta say. This is probably the main focus, quote unquote, of the day. Um, it had its first episode 7 months ago, and then its second episode, just yesterday. So first, of course, we gotta watch episode 1, released 7 months ago. It is titled Pretzel Pizza. All right, so yeah, let's watch it and let's discuss. Hello, I have just finished watching BattleToBeAdopted episode 1. There may be background noise, by the way, as people are speaking and doing other things. But heading into this show is immensely interesting. So there's a vibe to this that is so hard to explain. But there's just a general vibe that feels different than usual because we're doing a relatively regular object show here, we're doing an object show where the fellas, they're competing, right? We've got challenges, there's jokes, some people do it well, some people do it less well, right? There's gags and jokes and all of that situation, right? So that's all cool. However, it's done so slowly. Actually, it's the pacing of this show is unbelievably slow. Everything takes its own time to sink itself in. Every joke lasts a while. And especially when you combine it with the music choice, the OSC that actually is pretty loud in the videos, and especially because some of it is from one, and in general it's just slower tracks on average. So the slower, more melancholic tracks combined with the slower pacing of the show give it a vibe where it's this show could be a 10-minute fast object show that would be pretty ununique. However, it ends up making this unique little package because it has this pacing to it that I haven't seen in another object show with a proper competition like this. But let's quickly begin here with the first act, I guess. So For the first 7 minutes, we have sort of the moment where the characters introduce each other. It's the cast of characters, right? We get to hear them and what they're doing. And yet again, you see, just as I explained, and a lot of the other objects that I've covered, even for this series, right? Usually that little portion where we just saw the characters speak and interact right before the challenge begin, that lasts like 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, right? But in this case, it lasts 7 minutes before the host shows up, which I just think it shows it. It's like it's paced slowly, and it's not bad. It's not bad that it's paced slowly. It's just really interesting that it's paced slowly. So for the first 7 minutes, we actually have a quote unquote poor quality show, which I personally wasn't minding, although some of the asses were definitely quite a bit weird. For stuff like the chips, the spicy chips and stuff. But it's definitely an interesting gambit to make the first minutes of your show be low quality, quote unquote, because I mean, usually I wouldn't recommend this because those are the most, if you think about it, those are the most important minutes of your show because nobody is going to watch the rest of the show without what, like, everybody who watches the show needs to watch the beginning of the show, right? Because it's the start. Is the first point, it's the introductory point to the series. So when you're starting it off in this kind of lower quality, it isn't. I wouldn't call it a good decision. Yes, there is a little tag at the beginning that says that it'll get good. Don't be scared off. But the fact that it's there already implies that I don't know. There's a risk being taken. Maybe I don't know why it would this. I'm not. I'm guessing that this wasn't like a stylistic choice. I'm guessing what happened was they were making this or something. In Okay, hold on. What could have possibly happened here? My prediction. All right, I had no idea this is a story. I would personally guess that they maybe made this a while ago. Then the show got canceled, and they remade it again, and they revamped everything. But the start was already made, so you might as well keep it up. I'm guessing that's what happened, but I have no idea. But you see, for example, right? Immediate joke at 1 minute into the video, right? So Spicy Chip says that their name is actually, and then starts yapping stuff what we can't understand, right? So that segment, that one singular joke, okay, this one joke takes how long? It takes on from 54 seconds to 1 minute 20. That is pretty much 30 seconds to do this one gag. Like, that's what I mean with the pacing. It's slow pacing. The jokes end up like they stay for so long, which I think is a very interesting part. Because if this was like a BFB or even an I or even most things, right, you would do that joke for 5-8 seconds. You would get, okay, I understand, and then it cuts off. But this just lets it happen, and it makes a really interesting editing style. But even in general, like the characters speaking, there's quite a large gap between them speaking and stuff. Yeah, it's quite interesting. Now, one of the positive things about spending more time in the introduction that we get to see more of the characters. All right, so like we get to get introduced to them a little bit better. Personally, in this initial session, I was quite a big fan of the toaster. I thought the toaster design looked genuinely pretty cool. I can't even lie. Out of the lower quality assets from the beginning, I liked the toaster quite a bit. In the way that they were. You see, here's another joke. Right here with the toaster. Well, you won't be able to see it, but right with the joke of the toaster eating the sandwich, right, and the fella listing it off. It's like it's another joke that spends itself a solid 30 to 40, no, 30 seconds of them talking while the toaster plays Pong and eats the bread, and it's just interesting that the time is spent this way. Like it really is. It really, really, really is interesting. But I will start talking about that now. So we get introduced to some other characters. We have a jar of peanut butter, which is clearly Jif, but ends up having the eyes as the written eyes and mouth as the written mouth. That's pretty interesting. The yo-yo is completely cuckoo. Don't know what happened to them. They have gone insane. I guess maybe the idea is that their head is like constantly spinning because they're a yo-yo, right? And that's what the yo-yo does. So I'm gonna guess that's the character archetype. I'm a fan of Chair being capable of moving with the arms of the chair, right? As I think that's a pretty creative design. So there's some creative designs. I'm a fan of the pool noodle. I think the pool noodle being able to like actually having one arm from both sides is pretty interesting. The dodgeball being the meaner character, I guess, makes sense, but the other people just sort of ignore them. The sandcastle for some reason eats the pool noodle, no idea why. The bandage is, I think, him more of a mean character as well. I don't think you get to see much of bandage. Then who is there? There's acid. There's the tablet fella. I think the tablet got the best redesign out of the main cast because this tablet design wasn't great, but then it is. Then we have the quiet, I guess, annoying little flying fella who always stretches out the end of words and has an auto-tune placed on them. What I say, another little critique of the show, audio mixing isn't top tier in my opinion. Some characters like that one disco, I'm gonna call it disco ball even though I don't know what it is. It's a little louder than the rest, and there's some other characters like the quieter ones. I'm thinking like Umbrella. I'm thinking there was another character that was quite quiet that I noticed it on, but it's like Batter. No, was it Battery? It might have been Battery, but like some characters are quieter than ever, and especially when you have the music a rather loud volume, it does turn out that it's not the most well balanced side. Then there's the yarn ball that's just kind of straight up a cat. There's a battery fella. All right, and then there's non-existy or sunglasses. People get fooled, but the non-existy wear sunglasses because like they have somebody has to see them. So they exist. It's cool to see non-existent as a concept, like that is a character, in a way, right? I mean, I don't know how it works for non-existent to exist, but it's cool for people to make that a thing. But then the host shows up, which is Scratcher the Scratch Cat. I'm not sure if this is how unique of a design this is. I gotta look up the Scratch Cat. I think it's like a edited version of the Scratch Cat because I don't think they had like the gap in the ear like it's been bitten and stuff. But it's pretty good. The host uses the announcer voice from BFDI. If I'm not mistaken, there's also another character that uses the remote voice. Who uses the remote voice? I think it's the character who was the PNG uses it. And the muffiny. So that's interesting. And eventually everybody gets to agree to go in their show for the prize of parents. There's no other definition. The prize is just parents. So, what does that mean? It's an interesting little concept for a show, no? Because, like, we have a set of orphans, I guess, right? These fellas, these characters, and the idea is that they're competing to be adopted, but this show just glosses over that massively. Like, who are the parents, for example? Like, who would you would be adopted by whom? Okay, nobody asked that question. They just don't mind. Where were we in the first place? Was that like a home, like for all of them to hang out in or something? Like where were they in the first place? Of course, how are they orphaned? What happened? Right? And all of that. These are all questions that when you're making a show with such a premise as BattleToBeAdopted, which I think, well, even though the title is a little silly, like at a glance, when you think about the concept, I think it's a really interesting concept because there's a lot of things you can do with it. And it's potentially in terms of object show, like these fellas, it could be one of the most important prizes, right, for them. As far because sometimes object show prizes are kind of dumb, but like in this case, like this would be a life changing prize, and an extremely important price for these characters' lives. But I don't know how much like it impacts them. I don't know how much like it changes them, because it doesn't sometimes it doesn't feel like they mind that much. But it's kind of weird. We're gonna need to learn more about it later. We have an intro that's done in a different style the entire rest of the show. I've always it's a very nice little intro. I enjoy that intro quite a lot. And then everybody else with their new design. Yeah, tablet is very good. I also really like Mousy as a character concept. You know, being a mouse that speaks like a mouse, and then the scroll wheel is like the mouth. That's pretty cool. And then having the smart. They don't have the toaster, which I also like. I hope the toaster still goes red when making toast, because I think that's a good little indicator. So who did they invite? They invite non-existy, the button fella. So yeah, I like that team. I'm a fan of the Smarties. Then the next team that rolls over is, I don't even know. Oh, it's called Allow me to tell you about the 50 things that Muffin likes. Okay, and then the team logo is in wingdings. Okay. Then you have a character. We've got this Candle fella looks very interesting. Because that was the other character I meant when I said that they're quiet. Candle's super quiet. I understand that that's the point. Candle speaks quiet, but like it's like unhearable quiet because of the music in the background. So I'd maybe try to bump it up, I guess. But eventually they come up with the team of the Wallet Gang. So there we go, because there's Wallet, Briefcase, Sandcastle, Pool Noodle, and I don't even know, just Literal Pool. Who is that character? Now that I think about it, I don't even know who that character is. I didn't even consider that as a character. I didn't even realize they were there. And then the other fellas form a team, which is called Meow. All right, Umbrella. At least initially, seems to be one of the more titular characters. You know, seems to be one of the more important character in the show. They're one of they're one of the ones that gets more screen time, and also is the thumbnail character and stuff. We'll have to see how important they end up being. But yeah, Team Meow is formed because of Yarn Ball. And time for the challenge. The challenge is to make a pizza, which Umbrella seems to not know what they are. However, other fellas know what they are. So yeah, again poses the question: what are they doing? What situation are these fellas in? Like half of them seem to know what a pizza is, and then the other half has no idea what a pizza is. And it's like, how did this happen? Like what society are you living in? What happened? How did you get this way, right? Like some fella can just make a pizza, but the other ones have no idea how it is. So I I don't know. Either way, true. The tablet, that team, the Smarties, ends up trying to figure out that they can try to connect to the internet to figure out how to join. But they don't have internet. There is an open internet for the pizza place that they end up being for in the challenge. However, they have to eventually get a password. Then the other fellas, the Meow. What the hell does the Meow team even do? Oh yeah, the friggin' shiny ball ends up having an IRL segment that lasts another full minute of them making the pizza. Look, to be fair, as far as any IRL segment, as far as any segment goes, this one definitely deserves the screen time. Because, I mean, I don't know who's the poor fella that recorded this, but you made an absolute mess. Like, you made a mess, bro. So, fair enough. The G wasted, like, all the sauce packet. Then, it remote is chilling there on the ground. Okay, I think it's time to discuss this for a moment. What is going on with the static? Because this is one of the things that this show does stylistically, which is the most different to anything else I've seen. I don't know whatever show. Maybe another show does this, but one of the big ones that I haven't watched. But I have personally find it very interesting detail. For some reason, when a character is not doing anything, shook, pretty much any type of emotion, they will sort of freeze, have this like static face to them sometimes, and it just happens so consistently. And sometimes it acts as a joke, like they're face moving outwards, that one eye to the left, one eye to the right, and then the limbs. I know that when the team name was formed, the candle did that, if I'm not mistaken. And then it's like, but what is going on? It's such an interesting decision because it happens so unbelievably often, and in a way where it's somewhat unrelated as well. Like, it doesn't happen. Okay, the reason why I get confused by it is because it doesn't happen for a reason, right? Like, for example, in the scene where they're trying to figure out how to make a pretzel pizza, the 50 ways to be the team player or whatever team, right? Like, battery is just laying there on the floor, but as soon as the battery speaks, as soon as the battery is relevant, you get to see the normal acid and the normal talking. So it's like, it's only when battery isn't talking that we're switching to the static version, and it's like, I don't know why. It's sort of it's an interesting little decision that happens so unbelievably consistency, but yeah, it just is a thing. Um, Eventually they end up picking what did I put? Tamale to put on the pizza, which, all right, the other team ends up making a little pizza. However, they forget to cook it because the candle just says yes to the idea of "Are we done?" So, all right. Eventually, they steal the password. The button, I think, is the biggest contributor of the static face. No idea why. Genuinely, I don't know why this is a thing, but it is, and it's a very unique little trait. Okay, so what are the other teams do? Then half the team just start stealing ingredients, like briefcase and stuff. He's stealing ingredients like half the time. Then they also steal the Wi-Fi password, if I'm not mistaken, for the other team because um a scratcher doesn't directly give it. So briefcase just steals everything. Briefcase is a master level stealer. Briefcase has never failed to steal something ever. Um, so the Meow team ends up choosing to put milk on the pizza because Scratcher is a cat and would like it, and M is Meow, which is a great little concept from that team. It's a great little invention, which Chair I mainly came up with. Yeah, again, I especially like Chair's new design as well because you can see the, the legs of the chair move as like limbs, which I enjoy quite a bit. They don't get to make a special ingredient in time, the Wallet Gang. To be fair, they try to put the oven into overdrive and then everything explodes. That was a good gag. So eventually, I don't know what they could have put in for W. Like, what food has W in the name? Like, I guess wasabi. They put wasabi on the pizza. But other than that, like, they couldn't do much. So, fair enough. They end up putting the wallet themselves just lays on the pizza, and it's like, all right, I'm the special ingredient. It turns out that the password is the internet password. So, all right. The team, the Smarties don't even end up making use of that information as far as I'm aware. So, yeah. Yo-Yo somehow manages to form the pizza into a pretzel. No idea. Yo-Yo doesn't seem like they could walk with how doozy they are, but, sometimes magical things can happen. So, eventually, oh yeah, Muffiny ends up eating the pretzel pizza, which is not a good move, right? Because now everybody gets to eat the pizza, so they do that. Um, okay, the Smarties, I think, do end up managing to sort out the pizza in time after looking at a recipe. Yeah, they make like a sausage pizza with the internet password, so they get a good job. The other team with the milk, of course, the Scratcher likes it. The Gambit works. Like the milk on the pizza, because cat. Then the Wallet pizza, it was okay, but yeah, Wallet wasn't wasn't eatable. Which, I'm just saying, we do not seem to be having a big case of murder in this object show, which is interesting. We're seeing a little bit of a nicer host this time around, which is nice. It's a nice little detail. Um, And then, I mean, the host channel is a good thing. One of them is going to get adopted, whatever that means. What does that mean? These are the questions that are too important to gloss over. But, yeah. Wallet gets upset that they don't get eaten. Now the other team, because of Muffiny, ends up getting up for elim, which means that, well, they're up for elimination. Now I can't even lie, right? Considering the fact that this show has such like a slow pacing to it. The fact that they actually spend 0 seconds in the voting screen is such a stark contrast to it, actually. Like, we just get to see Scratcher talk with the voting screen in the background. We don't actually get to see a shot of the voting screen by itself, which is unbelievable when we get to see a full 30-second still shot of, like, a character like spicy chips just talking nonsense, right? Like, it's unbelievable little pacing. How do we not have a voting screen? I'm not gonna lie. That is something that is just it just has to exist, no? But anyways, the boot here should realistically absolutely be muffiny, because I feel like it could be muffiny anyways, because of the fact that they're a PNG type character. You know, and everybody else, they got new designs, and it was an important detail that they got redesigned, right? Like, it was a important, like, it was a thing in the episode when Muffiny did it, and not only that, Muffiny also ate the pizza, which made their team lose because they were having a pretty solid pizza. You know, they had a pizza and it had pretzel on it, right? And it was pretzel shaped, so I think it would have worked. You know, the wall of pizza, which fails the challenge by not having something with W on it, would mean that they would lose. So Muffiny rose the challenge, and then Muffiny also is my opinion the least interesting character design, and it's a stolen voice as well because we're using the same text to speech that Remote does in BFDI. So I would absolutely predict that, but I guess we'll find out because BattleToBeAdopted 2 called 99 bottles of beer on the wallet. What? Okay, 99 bottles of beer on the wallet released, and we must talk about it. Let's go watch it. Alrighties, I have just watched the second episode of BattleToBeAdopted, titled 99 Bottles of Beer on the Wallet, and what an interesting little episode. Feels like there's so much to it. And yet there's a lot to everything. Okay, so let's first discuss that there's another little style change because, of course, it's been quite a bit since the last episode. Apparently, I think in universe it's been about a month, but here in the real life it's been about 7 months since the last episode. So that's all right. We see that the Tablet felt like it's another redesign. Personally, I can't even lie that I think it looks worse, but I think the characters agree as well. Um, yeah, this sort of iPad design. I'm not a big fan of the bottom of the button at the bottom. It's a bit squarey. I don't think it necessarily fits with the design. That's a bit more glossy. One of the things that has changed in this episode massively is that little static face that I pointed out as such a detail in the last episode only happens one time compared to the 1 million times of episode 1. So as you can see, like, I think there's a bit of a change in direction as well. You know, in the way that we're affecting things. So it's interesting. Then the host comes in and elimination is gonna happen. So this host is a little bit annoying. I can't even lie. Okay, so Scratcher has officially. I would say Scratcher isn't that mean. No, Scratcher is actually quite mean. The thing about Scratcher is that Scratcher just won't let anybody speak, but it's not in a way where it makes any sense, because Scratcher just doesn't say anything, right? Scratcher just in silence. Then somebody speaks, and Scratcher goes, "Let me speak," and it's like, you were not speaking to start with. You know, it's like there wasn't an interruption. You just weren't speaking, but that's like the constant all the time, especially during the challenge setup. Any question, somebody asks a question, and it's like, stop talking, and it's like, brother, can you not do that? And they say the same thing at the elimination. As soon as anybody speaks, it's like, no, don't speak. Let me do it. And it's like, okay, so you're getting annoying, but yeah, we see this new, I guess, version of the static fake, which is the more like crudely drawn single asset when a character's having a little reaction, which I like. I personally prefer. And then we end up getting the intro, the solid minute and a half long introduction to the show, which is quite an intro. So they're all animated until Scratcher comes in, and then we get to see Umbrella walk around as the rest of the cast are in the background. So I think this emphasizes my personal opinion that Umbrella is almost definitely the titular character, right? In this show, like Umbrella is the focal point, is the main character, right? Like that's the character that we seem to be following the most, you know? Which it is a little weird when we are having a show happen, right? Because we're having the main character be there, and I don't think it's true in this episode. However, like you have to you have it's there's an interesting situation when you make a object show with voting and then have a main character in it, because usually not okay 99% of the time, because Umbrella is going to be the main character and is going to have the most screen time, going to be a light character is going to survive. But what the hell happens if Umbrella got eliminated, right? How does progression happen? That would be pretty difficult. But yeah, Umbrella gets to walks around the group in the back, which is all sort of sad, upset. There's some people in the back. They eventually fall down all the way to a void, I guess, where a staticky void where they try to hug some sort of soda can fellow, which seems to be bigger than them as well, which is interesting, and it sort of disintegrates in their arms. There's some glitchy fellas, like Scratcher and Muffiny were quite glitchy. And then eventually we get to see all the characters appear quickly and BattleToBeAdopted. So, um, yeah, so we get to see, within the intro, there's some stuff to analyze, what's going on, what is happening. I like that we're starting to tackle a little bit of a backstory, because this show, one of the main things that I think this show has done correctly, right, is that its setting is inherently interesting, right? We have this competition, but also there's a backstory to each and every single person here, right? Like, we know that because you've ended up here. So that means that there is a backstory to every soul in this place, which means that there's inherently a want to figure that out, right? And I'm glad that we're getting to that, because we just hear more backstory based on certain people during the challenge. They're interacting. They're saying, "Hey, remember this? Remember when we played this game? I haven't done this in a while. We're kids. Remember 7 years ago, right?" And it's like, okay, that's interesting, right? So first of all, every character is a kid, presumably. That makes sense. But like, um, in object shows, it's always a little bit of a clarification you got to make, because it's like, what's going on? Because nobody feels like they have ages, but they seem to be kids. For some reason, I have no idea why the entire elimination ceremony is lagging, like literally lagging. Which is a very weird technical fault, because, like, okay, hold on. I don't really know much, okay, about animation and all that. I'm gonna be 100% honest. I don't really know. But how would that happen? Right? Like, what is the error? Why does it not happen for the other scenes? Why is it just that? What happened? Because, like, it's an animation program. Like, surely you just render it, right? Like, it's not a live thing. Like, you're not screen recording. So, like, you should just be able to render it. Maybe it'll take longer because, there's a big moving background and stuff. But once it's rendered, it should be there running at its full FPS when you play it back. So I'm not a, I'm genuinely just I'm just really interested in how that mistake is. No, well, not that mistake. How that error has happened? Like, how is it lagging? What's happening? What happens in that scene that doesn't happen in the others? That means that it's impossible to render it properly. I don't know. That is a very interesting little tidbit. I was thinking about it for like proper near the entire ceremony. It's like, how would this happen? I don't know. I don't know enough about animation to tell you. But if you do, let me know. So we get to gold or cold, where viewers, they apparently get one vote to save and one vote to eliminate, which is interesting. It does give more power to fan favorites, right? If you are a fan favorite, you're gonna get more votes to save, compared to a non-fan favorite, right? A character. I mean, it would be technically possible to use, of course, your ballot to save a potentially mean character, right? If you don't want to be eliminated. In general, I don't think it changes that much. It's a voting system that probably just makes the strong contestants stronger, because the weaker contestants weaker. You know, I think it creates a bit more of a disparity. I think the fan favorites are going to continue to be even more fan favorites when they don't really get that much of a risk to be eliminated, because they're just going to get voted to save every time, right? But either way, for this elimination, it doesn't really matter that much because everybody else just gets completely, it gets extremely safe, and by a country mile, Muffiny gets eliminated, which is fair. Yeah, no. Of course, I call out sometimes predictability in the voting systems. No, not in the voting system, in the votes, because like, wow, the character that did the wrong thing got eliminated. But also, yeah, obvious, duh. You vote the character who made the team lose and who's not interesting. So I 100% understand the decisions of the masses here. Yeah, Muffiny gets eliminated, and that makes perfect sense. So Muffiny heads into the fridge. That's where you go. I don't know where the fridge is, but they end into the fridge dimension. So they'll just be there, I guess. And eventually they all leave. Apparently Briefcase was here somewhere watching the elimination. Not sure how, but they were there. Eventually Umbrella walks back and is trying to find out what is happening. So the second challenge is the okay. So there are a lot of bottles on a wall, each team, and then a certain amount of them are apple juice, while the other amount is beer. Okay. Then you have to put each one in a respective box. That all sounds good. Now, by the way, I like the guy. While I am saying that Scratcher just tells everyone to shut up, I like the guy of lowering the volume of the tablet and then they don't speak. The pacing in this episode, it's still pretty slow, but it feels itself faster. Like, it's 21 minutes where more stuff is happening in the 21 minutes for sure in this episode than the 21. The episode nearly exactly the same, but way more is happening in these 21 minutes, in my opinion, than the last episode where the 21 minutes definitely felt a bit stretched out. But yeah, we end up in a little bit. Oh yeah, I also really like the fact that Scratch places a green flag and the challenge arena drops. So the kids have this interesting situation where they are kids, right? Like, this is a challenge where you get to probably learn that, like, they are kids, which means that they don't drink beer and they're not supposed to. But they theoretically like apple juice, and most kids think beer is bad. So there's an immediate idea: if you like how it tastes, it's apple juice. If you dislike how it tastes, it's beer, right? What is the best way to do this challenge? The best way is just to try it. I understand that, okay, a lot of the characters, they're like, shit, we can't drink the beer. How will we find out without drinking the beer? So, I mean, you can, like, it is possible to put something in your mouth and then not keep it there. Like, you don't have to drink an entire bottle every time, like we end up seeing the shiny ball do. Like, you don't need to do that, Like, in my opinion, the absolute best strategy, like, if a team never did this, but like the best strategy is just to take a tiny sip, right? Taste it. Do I like it? No. But in either case, just spit it out just in case, right? Just like make a little put. Like it's gross, sure, but we have a character that literally ink on the ground. Like, we should be okay. But eventually, the spiky ball just ends up getting hella drunk, which, to be fair, they just feel like they're hella drunk all the time. But eventually they all want to drink apple juice, which apparently they don't get to drink at the orphanage. So that's interesting. Apparently I haven't drank it in a while. So what does the other team do? What is this line? It's been 7 years. Since what? Wait, I didn't process this part very well, to be honest. What if you programmed the toaster? What? Okay, I don't really know, but apparently, maybe like the tablet program the toaster. I don't know. That's an interesting idea. But look at the mechanic and they said no, which is interesting. Like, there's a lot of these little sentences that's like, okay, something happened in the past. You get to see like, oh, they played musical chairs. Oh, tablet was a smart kid, right? And then it's like, okay, you see what's happening. There's some reminiscing going on. So for some reason, Battery and Acid decided the best strategy is just to count the total amount of bottles and not do anything with that information. Just count the total, and then you just have a total. What are you doing? Bandage obviously calls out the flaw with this, but they're just like no. So yeah, that's certainly interesting. Meanwhile, the team with Candle in it, the wallet gang, really don't do much, to be honest. Um, so the pool noodle, okay, and actually no. So their strategy is to sniff every bottle, to then test out how it goes, right? So if it smells bad, then also they could. That's another way to do it, right? You don't necessarily need to take a sip. You can smell it. So they have a relatively smart strategy, but Wally screws it up because it's like, no, 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 no. Let's not put the bottles in the boxes. Let's put the bottles on me. Why? Why would you do that? Again, Pool Noodle rightfully calls it out, but then just doesn't protest. Does not, just keeps it like going. So I don't know. Eventually, the other team keeps it moving with just giving the spike this, what do you call this, the shiny ball, a bunch of drinks. Eventually, Tablet does manage to successfully be smart. If when you shake a drink, it is fizzy, it is beer, and if you don't, it is apple juice. Fair enough. That is a way to figure it out. I respect that idea, and it is pretty good. And they do, in fact, tend to do it. Now, they do have a little bit of a mess with the remembering, because they decided to use a calculator, a app, which you could have, one for one and the other for the other. I mean, I would have recommended. I guess you could have had two calculators. I mean, you could have had like a calculator. Okay. You don't need a calculator for this task. It is 1 + 1 every single individual time. So I'm just saying. So you could have just made, like, you could have maybe done one on a calculator and one on a notepad, and you figured out, right? Notepad is beer, right? Okay, but either way, whatever. It seems like maybe the magnifying glass and butter are buddies because of the one lines. That's another little dynamic that we got to keep an eye on. But there's not much that we can really see. Their team get to count, so they're counting pretty well. I mean, they're pretty useless. So then Briefcase brings over Bandage because they want to form an alliance, which apparently they learned about an alliance. I don't know why did they learn about an alliance at the orphanage? What is the point of that? If they're not doing a competition, I don't know how they would have learned it, but apparently they did learn it. So Briefcase gives me Taco from II vibes. You're sort of this character that feels smart, you know? So, like, that's like a character that feels smart is sort of outside the bounds of the channel most of the time, feels like an outlaw, and then it's sort of like trying to influence, like, hey, let's be friends, kind of sneaky vibe with the taco microphone. And here we like there's a similar type of dynamic going on here with the briefcase bandage situation. So eventually, yeah, Bandage called out that apparently one time to play musical chairs and briefcase won. The parents is the prize is parents, which Bandage forgot because, I mean, of course the kids are gonna forget. How old are these people? I don't know what age of kids they are, but considering some of them have been there for 7 years, I don't genuinely have no idea how old they could be. Like, I'm trying to pinpoint an age, but I don't know. But like Tablet, for example, and Mouse has apparently been around for over 7 years in the spot, so they could be around for ages, man. I don't know. I'm gonna guess that either maybe like 13 to 12. I'm gonna say that. I'm gonna say that age range, but I have genuinely no idea how old some of these fellas are. Eventually, so yeah, because bandage is dangerous, the freaking briefcase ends up telling them about him because they found the internet password. They're just sort of sneaky. They steal stuff and are chilling. I have no idea what Jiff and the Yo-Yo are doing. Like, zero idea. But eventually, the wallet's plan ends up being stupid and not working. That wasn't predictable at all. Because they get too heavy because there's too much situation. Um, so they can't even really count already. For some reason in this look, okay, I don't know. My one criticism with the show is that there's too much people telling other people to shut up. Like, okay, I get it, but can you please? Like, Scratcher does it every half a sentence, and then we're also having like 4 or 5 characters just do it all the time, and it's like, come on, please, we need to not do this. That is one thing that I kind of dislike about the writing. Is like it feels like anytime someone says anything, the other another character is just like, no, you shall not speak, and it's like, bro, what? Why are we doing this? But yeah, eventually that team figured out the strat. For some reason, Inky and Sandcastle decide to steal the blue chair. Blue chair looks completely unbothered. Yet again, the Inky doesn't really want to be the bad guy, so the Sandcastle ends up being pretty chill. So then the final 2 minutes arrive. So what's going on in the final 2 minutes? So the wallet is completely incapacitated because there's too much stuff within them. The battery has no idea what they're doing. So now Briefcase goes and gets a quick favor from Tablet to find out what the method is, which Tablet does correctly say. Also, surprisingly enough, it does seem that Mousy correctly labeled the apple juice and the beer. So good job, Mousy, on doing that, because they could have been very much so screwed. So what is Suki doing? So the fizzy one is beer and the non-fizzy one is apple juice. So eventually they go running around here, absolutely speed running, those two. And then it is officially challenge time. The challenge is officially over, which means that the first team is correct. I don't even know how the Meow team did it, but they just, I guess, got one big beer. And the Smarties also correctly labeled it, so good job. The Mouse team weren't 100% correct, but they did it. Man, the Wally Gang team didn't even have a number. I gotta say, they had a number. Like, they didn't even say anything. By the way, hold on. Also, now that I think about it, now that I'm literally considering it right now, where are the boxes? Wasn't the point of the challenge to put the things in the boxes? Was that not the challenge? I thought that was the I thought you had to put it in the box, but it said no. But Scratcher just asks like, "Hey, how many were there?" And then they just say a number. Like, what wasn't half of the challenge like putting in the box? Is that the entire reason why the Wally Gang lost? But then the other teams don't have to do it. Like, what? That's a writing oversight, in my opinion. But yeah, eventually they get the little stickers. They don't get to keep their stickers. Apparently, at least as part of their design. So yeah, the Wally Gang is up for elimination. Now, yet again, hold on, who's up for elimination? We got Briefcase, the Pool Noodle, the Wallet, the Candle, the Sandcastle, and the Inky. I would probably eliminate the Sandcastle because I think the Sandcastle was sort of character that's mildly mean and not really doing a whole lot and not that interesting. So I would say Sandcastle personally. I am worried about Briefcase for sure because Briefcase is doing the whole sneaky shit. But I don't think they're necessarily like that. I don't know. I think they'll be safe. because you know they got a lot of screen time, so they're important. But I'd personally pick the sandcastle. But voting's still open as far as I'm aware, so you can go vote. You can go be the change that you want to see in the world. Yet again, absolutely criminal that we don't get to see the voting screen for more than half. Okay, this time we do get to see the voting screen, but for half a second. Bro, the voting is important. Let me see the voting screen. That is insane. Like, these episodes are not trying to be fast. In fact, they're actively slower paced than a lot of other Object Show episodes, and we don't even get to see the voting screen on the screen for more than 0.2 seconds, because Scratcher is covering it like 99% of the time. Like, come on, like that is, you know, it's a type of moments where you're supposed to pause, or you know, to pause or to look at them and go like, who would I vote? And it said no, it's not on the screen. Okay, I understand that you click the Google format, you're gonna be able to choose there and stuff, but like the video, like it's more useful. You get to see the images and everything, and you know, and the art. That's pretty cool. The voting screen art as well. I just saw like Inky covered the whole screen and stuff. It's like it's fire. It's gonna see it. Whatever, bro. The credits are pretty cool. It's sort of styled like the intro with the whole very long room. Um, then we get to see but oh yeah, by the way, lovely little acorn animations, like sort of title card. Um, you know, sort of like the Pixar logo where the acorn runs around and enters to form the logo. I really like that. That's a really enjoyable. They do put it at the start and not the end, right? It's just is the Pixar logo is at the start of movies, right? Not at the end of movies. I mean, I don't mind it being at the end, especially considering it is mildly long, like it's 15 seconds. But like usually they do go at the start. I'm just saying. And with that, I mean that's the current situation about to be adopted. There's not much that we know yet. I can't even lie. Like, there's not much that we know yet. There's a lot of potential here. That's what I'm gonna say. There's a lot of potential. It's pretty well animated. You know, it's a relatively well animated show. It's maybe struggles sometimes when trying to do action. Right, when it's just characters sort of speaking to each other, it's perfectly fine. When the characters are trying to do action, maybe sometimes it's a little bit more of a mess. But in general, the characters are it's just quite a well animated little show. So I'm absolutely a fan of how this is currently going. As far as the lore, yet again, I also think it's got a lot of potential. You know, like there's clearly a backstory here. I mean, let's not directly hear it, but you know, we want to throughout the episodes evolve. You know, because currently, while we are, you know, getting attached to these characters, we need to know the main part of the story, which is the part that we don't know the main part of the story of anybody, right? What is going on with these, like what happened? You know, like we know this is one of those, we know the end result, we just don't know how we got there. Right, it's one of those, right? And because like, of course, you gotta answer the question. You're like these fellas are in an orphanage, and then the Scratcher comes in and offers a parents, quote unquote. Like, of course, you gotta find out, why are these people at the orphanage? What happened? What's their story? Do they have positive memories? Do they have trauma? Right? Like, we gotta find out these people, and also who are the parents. Like, these are questions that we're gonna need to discover. You know. So hopefully those will be addressed later on in the series, because you know those are the big questions, and it's got the potential to be a big little important show. Um, uh, while in the middle of it, and then generally, yeah, I think audio wise, it was definitely an improvement. It was definitely an improvement. I noticed the audio way less. I think it's because of the music. The music sort of chilled itself out quite a bit more this time. To the places where I think some parts didn't even have music. So, like, in general, I definitely think that the audio mix has improved. The animation has relatively improved. Right? It's got this has got potential. I am looking forward to it. I've yapped about it for a long time, as you can already tell, and I'm interested to see where it goes. I think that's all I really can say about this show for now. We gotta get moving. We gotta talk about some other little things for today. There's no way we're making this a special. Let's go. Alright, so next up we're going to be doing a little bit of, I guess, a speed round, alright, here in Object Catchup, because, yeah, again, the list of shows that I've found that exist, right, has definitively increased quite a bit, right? So, we are going to be taking a look at all of the shows who have had one episode, alright, one episode. We're taking a look at all of those today, regardless of whether it's an order or not. And then hopefully the ones with 2 episodes or more will have time for them in another video. All right, that is the concept that I'm going to be delivering here. All right, and then hopefully we'll talk about it. All right, so we're going to start off here. Actually, not really with an episode one, because usually on the list I don't actually put shorts. Right, stuff that isn't directly an episode of a show. However, in this case, I did. I don't know. I made an exception for it. So here, this is by a fellow titled CheshyWeshyAnimatess. Now they have made a short called The Trio with it's 2 minutes long, 5 days ago. I don't know. Let's just watch it. Let's see what it is. I have no idea, and then we'll talk about all about it. Alright, I've just watched The Trio, which is an object show. Sure, no, that was very nice. I can't lie. I was a fan of what I saw because, like, the thing about a short, right, is that it's short. However, you have to introduce a setting and a situation, right, rather quickly, which can be a little complicated, right, if we don't know who everybody is. However, here we're taking a direct interview approach. I'm not sure who the interviewer is. I'm not sure who is conducting this, but um, they are, interviewing each one of them individually, and asking them questions. Then what we get to do, we get to learn about these characters' dynamics. So we have here Ribbon, which is sort of, I guess, the not necessarily the leader of the friend group, but like the one who keeps it all together. The one who's friends with both of them. Then there's Baton, that's a sort of, I guess, meaner girl or ruder in the sense of, like, sort of ruder girl. And then there's the lipstick that's sort of, I don't really know how to define lipstick. There was a, like, I know that there's definitely a word for this personality, but it wasn't too um how do I say it? I don't know, it's like well spoken. Like, Ribbon is just honest. Lipstick is like well spoken but sometimes but dishonest, trying to fit the problem. While Baton is just like for real, right? So what happens is that apparently Ribbon and Baton are friends and hanging out in until middle school, where Lipstick comes in and joins the friend group and all is well. But apparently one time, what happened was Baton's boyfriend left her for Lipstick, which is pretty crazy. How does that even, like? I mean, it's pretty crazy just that they're still friends. Like, I feel like in the 90% of real life situations, that's a no. That's a no no. That's a you are gone type. That's a I am not gonna be your friend if you do that type attitude. So I have no idea how those two are even in the vicinity of hanging out. That's a whole different. I don't know how they're doing that, but anyway, I guess it's just the power of Ribbon. That's what I mean when I say, like, his leader type character. Like, the fact that this trio exists, it's because Ribbon is there being like the connection piece. It's the string that brings them. So yeah, apparently they have it's so Ribbon, I think, is agreed that it's a pretty clean room. Uh, and apparently Lipstick's room is very messy. That makes sense. And then apparently Baton's room it's relatively clean, but Lipstick says that it is not clean. Baton gets upset and invades the room. So I mean, I can't gauge who'd be the cleanest of them all, but I guess just by what item they are, I would, I guess, say that uh Ribbon probably would be. Ribbon feels like the more organized one of the trio, right? While the rest are sort of chaos merchants. There might be a series coming out with these three at some point in time that seems to be getting worked on, right? So that's all cool. I don't really know what to expect, but not gonna lie, I'd be interested in looking at it for sure. There's an interesting dynamic here. It's like there's sort of this resentment from two of the parties, but like in general, they're more one of them is direct, one of them is more like backhanded insults, while the no, there's Ribbon in the middle just being like, "Hey guys, let's be together, Let's." So I kind of like it. I don't mind it as a concept for sure. It is pretty cool. However, in general, I'd be interested. I don't know if the show's coming along, how it's coming along. Hope it's going well. And yeah, we might see future stuff from this fella in the future. 39 views. Go give it more views. Come on, dude. How did it have 39? It's gotta have like at least 390. Like put a zero at least minimum. Minimum. Come on. Come on, yo. What are we doing? Go discover object shows, please. Alright. Let's move on. Alrighty, the next show that we're going to be looking at, I'm telling you, is going to be quite fast. It is a 20-second episode one released by a fella called Hubbabubba. It is called the Squared Rootly Object Show. All right. The first episode is titled Purgatory. It's 20 seconds long. There's not much to talk about. I haven't watched it. Let's go watch it. Alright, so, okay, there actually is stuff to discuss here. So apparently the concept of the Squared Rootly Object Show is that every time a episode gets, like every season, there's a different number of contestants. However, to do that, the number of contestants has to start at one. Which means that this episode one, has to be the only episode of the first season. Alright, so I get it. I understand. It's a cool concept, especially if you imagine that the characters, like, I'm really hoping that they're not a new cast every time. I'm really hoping that, like, okay, sure, maybe season one Chips and Dip, which, by the way, cool design. I actually really like it. But other than that, Chips and Dip sort of won the season. But I really hope that when we're getting actual new contestants involved, I really hoping that the old cast stays. Right, like, I really hope that it's an addition rather than a replacement, because I want to be able to see a character evolve throughout the seasons. Like Chips and Dip actually face competition in a season two, but then maybe they fail, and then season three redemption arc with more people, right? Like you get to see like returnees are interesting, but then you also get a significant amount to work with a new cast. So I really hope that gets to happen in the case where we get to see another episode of the hit Square Rootly Object Show, which a season two hasn't happened yet. So I mean, I'm hoping it happens. But yeah, other than that, I don't know. I like the design of the dips and chip. The scene at the end sounds the TikTok at the end sounds very painful. And yeah, I mean that's all I got to say. I hope this concept happens because it looks cool. But there's not much more to say about it right now. All right, the next option we're going to be taking a look at. Okay, I like this one. Has 2 episodes instead of 1 episode, but they're both pretty fast. We're going to take a quick look at them. It's called the One Take Object Show. We're starting episode 1, called the Funny Taco. Is this in one take? I don't know. You can never trust these subject show titles nowadays. Let's go watch it. All right, I've just watched the One Take Object Show one. I don't know how to review one take. But like we're not gonna really be doing that. But it does sound like one take. It does. I'm as far as I'm aware, it is one take. Yeah, we take a main focus on Ghost here in this one take. The Ghost tries to find the taco, ends up asking people around until eventually they find a taco person and they bring them over, and then they're saving everybody else up for elimination. Who would I eliminate? I don't know. I'd probably eliminate Naley from Battle for Dream Island, or the Star fella, because their tag is 67. So However, I don't know. So we'll have to see. As far as the take itself, I mean, of course, there is the classic like you gotta not do your your ahs, but like in a way that's sort of the charm of it, right? The fact that it is one take and it is completely unprofessional. I really wonder how certain people with like proper experience are, because I know that especially for like musicals and stuff, I know that people practice a lot to be able to go with the flow, right? To be able to follow the action. People on stage, but I don't know how people on stage will be able to voice an opera show, but I don't. I'd be interested in seeing that as a concept. I can't even lie. Um, but all right, let's see. Let's just watch episode 2 then. Episode 2 is titled "Bake Me Now." Okay, let's watch it. All right, that is episode 2 of the one take object show called Bake Me Now. It is certainly a episode of an object show done in one take. There's a bit more effect put on, in sometimes when the voice calls for it, which is then we do the entire challenge portion of it in one take, which Nearly BFDI gets eliminated as predicted. Only 2 votes total, I think, happened, which I'm pretty surprised by. But then they end up making a cake, which is the challenge. I gotta say, as far as the one take's concerned, I think that's pretty smart. Because you don't have to think that much of it. You can just say, "What did you make?" "I made this." And then like you don't have to know what it is that is this, but later when animating it, you can narrow it down. Like that makes sense. Like I see what you're doing. You're doing a hashtag a pretty smart move. I can't lie. Can't lie. It's pretty smart. Say vague stuff so that way you have freedom in the edit because you have to do it correctly. So I'm not even gonna lie. That's pretty smart. Now, yeah, there's not too much to say about it really, because of course it's a bit random because it's done in one take. So you know what? I'm gonna see. Can I make a one take object show? Can I voice one? All right. So the next minute is gonna be my one take object show. All right. I'm gonna start right here, right now. All right. Get ready. Hello guys, I am your host, Hostman3000. Today we have you contestants, computer, monitor, and then mouse. Today we're gonna be finding out which one of you is the best computer part. Step 1, find the keyboard. I lost the keyboard. They were supposed to be participating. Let's go. Okay, I am Mouse. I am gonna be going all the way to the top of this mountain to try to see if the keyboard went there. Sometimes keyboard warriors, they tend to chill up there. I am the computer and I will calculate the best way to go to the keyboard. I will find the location. I am monitor and I am going to stand still. 5 hours later. Hello guys, so have you found the keyboard? No, we haven't. I checked the top of the mountain and they were gone. I forgot that GPSs are only on phones. And I've just been standing here. Well, since nobody could find keyboard, I guess we have to just presume the keyboard's dead. So keyboard gets eliminated. See you next time. In the next episode of the Computer Battle 3001 take. I am your host, Hostman6000 or whatever I said earlier. Thank you for watching. How'd I do? Give me an honest rating. Was that good? Was that a good one take object show? No, it was. That was absolutely terrible. But yeah, that's all. Keep doing what you're doing. People are watching it. We got a good chunk of views. So yeah, good luck on it, and keep improving your takes. Alright, yet again here in a little clearing of object show episodes that are quite small that we can take a look at today so that we don't have them as part of our list in the future. It is object show Tuff, like TUFF1, called Rush Show. It's 12 seconds long. Let's jump into it. Cinema. Absolute cinema. What I just watched. So, good job to Seo Device for saying hi. You did it. Anyway, no, there's nothing I can say about it. It's on the list because I found it, right, and it's good. And so I'm giving it coverage, but like there's not too much to say here. I don't know why there's a 1 because how is there gonna be a 2? What is the second episode gonna be of this show? It's supposedly over. I don't know, but I guess we'll find out. So good luck, Tomater. You can do it. You can find out how to make it the second episode to this show. But yeah, I mean, I like the song at the end. I like the song. It's pretty good, and all that. So that's cool. All right, yeah, that's honestly all I could say about it. But it was certainly a video that I just watched. All right, next up is a show made by Timmy Boy, or Tim VR 101. This is Object Shows 6-7 episode 1. I just know I'm going to win, especially warning plus blood and gun. Let's watch. Uh, yeah. That is this show might have stumped me. I kind of like this show might be the D1. This might have been the show that I have 0 words on. No, genuinely, how do I talk about this? So I mean it's a meme show to every single sense of the word. I don't even know what the cast is. What is the cast? There's like a I don't know what the cast of the show. So there's like this meme fellow, which I don't remember the name of. There's a chicken jockey, because of course. There's a taco fella. There's a tun. There's a six. No, we don't. No, that's not a contestant. That's just the name of the show. There's a mustard, and then there's a mango, because the meme Kendrick. And then there's I don't even know what that is. It's just some fella. um. I mean, the episode mostly acts it out as memes. Someone died after falling off a giant like thing, jumping off, and then as you can probably see, the mango shoots themselves, and eventually they get recovered, and yay, love is love. So they eat the apple, and the taco tries to eat the apple by kicking the fella out, but then the meat fella wins, so they get to pick the team, but we don't get to see anything of that. And apparently, the Tun fella gets sent all the way to like a different part of the universe, and then there's already a region. What do you mean? There's 3 ball, water, glass, and roboty. But like, what do you mean that one of them is the voting number is a fucking pi symbol? I'm sorry. Like, I don't know. I just genuinely like, as a joke show. Like, okay, how about this? Let's invent a new word. All right. This isn't a joke show. This is a brain rot joke show. All right. There's a show that's like it's this joke is brain rot. That's just what it is. All right. So we're gonna invent this new term, and anytime we see one of these, I'm going to call it a brain rot joke show, and just with that whole denominator, you will understand that it is a joke, that the jokes of this are brain rot, nonsensical, and I cannot review them. All right. So for many future moment on, we're gonna do this. Okay. All right. Sounds good. That's all that I can realistically look at for this. Let's just to go. Go. All right. And then the final show that we're going to be taking a look at for today's installment. It's another with 2 episodes. Actually, weren't that many with only 1 episode, so I decided to take a look at one ultra quick one with 2 episodes. It is created by 78 Card OSC, YouTuber with 349 subs. The show, well, the title says that it is called AJSMB78C. Which, I mean, I don't know what that means. Let's see if the video has got any explanation. Starting episode 1, I said don't. Okay? Alright, just watched the first episode of AJSMB78C1. But, you see, unlike the last show that we just looked at, right? That was a brain rot joke show. This is a joke show as it is made relatively low effort. Like, there's not that much put into it. But however, the characters are kind of a joke and stuff. But it's like it's not brain like it's like the joke. Like we're trying to create jokes here, right? Rather than just using a pre-existing joke. By the way, the title stands for another joke show made by 78 Card OSC, which makes sense. Um, Now, do we get to see our 5 contestants, which are square brackets, controller, black hole, but triangle, squiggly. Which, by the way, if I'm not mistaken, squiggly it was also like there's a common theme in these shows is that for some reason the idea of a joke show just having a squiggle as a character just resonates with everybody. Everybody does it. There's so many shows at this point while I've been looking at that do a scribble as a character as a joke show. It's just crazy. There's a black hole but a triangle. I don't know why you don't just call it a black triangle. Then there's a bowling ball. So challenges to not speak apparently. The black hole but a triangle tries to ask hosty guy a question. Nope. Well, the hosty guy, which is the shape guy, just generally all shapes, including triangle. But apparently, no. It's up for elimination, and then Squiggles talks about how the challenge is easy, and then they're up for elimination. So who's gonna get eliminated? I don't know. 12 hours to vote is a hilariously short amount of time. Uh, like I don't. Oof. Apparently, you might even recommend a character in the show to debut. Let's find out by watching episode 2. I'm predicting black hole, but a triangle gets eliminated. But I don't know. Let's find out by watching episode 2, which was oh no, oh so at least the next day. Okay, never mind. Then 12 hours makes sense. All right, let's go. All right, that was episode 2, Battle Royal. So we do find out the Black Hole Triangle gets eliminated quite handedly with 11 votes compared to 3. Um, Even in a joke show, you can tell how a voting pattern works, right? How people choose their mind. People vote for originality. People vote for originality. And even if it's a squiggle, right? It's at least it's a unique squiggle rather than black hole, but a triangle that's clearly derivative. That's why, for example, in a few shows ago, I predicted that Nearly Btba would get out because it was the only like derivative character. In fact, they did. So like it just sort of it's just the thing. People don't really like derivative. They tend to vote them out to have the original cast of the show, which is fair. I definitely see that decision. Oh wait, the challenge is a battle royale. So the first two to die go on to the elimination. So square brackets. The idea I think was that bowling ball was gonna pull them or something. However, they don't get to do that in time. The squiggle decides to dunk water on the controller, which would break it. It wouldn't set it on fire like what happened, but I mean, sure. Then, unfortunately, before the bowling ball can attack the square bracket, the square bracket literally just touches them and they immediately disintegrate completely, which doesn't make sense. I would have tried to invent a better reason. Like it's a bowling ball. Why can't you grab the bowling ball by the thing, throw it, maybe it'll crash against the wall and break? Like be creative. Don't be like touch it and then right? Like it's some sort of like when you put a water in the controller and then it goes blah, 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 that makes sense because it's like an electric circuit that you have. But a bowling ball, you just touch it. No, that's what you're supposed to do. Like you're supposed to grab the bowling literally. So how is it that touching it destroys? Whatever. It's a joke show. Let's not think about it too much. Who's getting eliminated? I don't know. Because it's been 12 hours already passed. I would predict that bowling ball gets eliminated because we got to see controller and that's it one get more mistreated. So I'm predicting the bowling ball gets limbed. And also bowling ball was sort of meaner, being like, hey, let me go square bracket. So maybe that's why. I'd predict bowling ball, I think, because of that. But other than that, yeah, there's not much to say about it. It's a relatively okay. The drawing for this show actually quite decent. I can't even lie. Like the assets and everything. Like the stuff is quite solid. But yeah, there's really not much else to say about it. It's a short show, short segment for sure. So that's all. All right, and with that, that is going to be all for today's installment of Object Catchup. Yeah, I maybe didn't take a look as many individual shows as I was originally planning because honestly, I did not expect the BattleToBeAdopted 7 to take as long as it did. Like it was a solid 50-minute of a segment. But yeah, I mean, look, you gotta discuss what you gotta discuss. We get completely honest. And look, if we are doing this on the daily like we currently are, we'll get there. We'll get there. Like these shows, they're on the list. we'll get there. You know, like sure, the next few days are gonna be complicated because it's gonna be Halloween. There's gonna be shows that release shows on Halloween. There's the whole lock invasion situation, which is gonna be very complicated for me to cover for sure within a reasonably hasty time frame. And within that, if I'm not mistaken, Daylight Saving Show is gonna be having an episode soon. Not on Halloween, but like on the 2nd November. So that's gonna be complicated. There's some other shows that I know have had new episodes, but they have a lot of backlog, so I haven't been able to make a special for them because I'm focusing more on like I'd rather have a lesser backlog and then eventually do specials than do specials and then have a massive backlog. Basically, the idea, right? So I want to have talked about as many new episodes as possible, which means that sometimes we leave the shows with more stuff to watch for later, but I will get to them. Like I absolutely pinky promise, I'm gonna get to everything that I haven't watched that I consider classified as an artist show. And yeah, I promise. All right, okay, this is cool. I know it's been quite a bit since I got requests for stuff to watch. I currently cannot, currently stuff's full. Currently the schedule's absolutely full. I got new episodes to watch. Can't currently take on the requests, so we're gonna run to see later for requests. Maybe maybe we're gonna need to do a special someday, right? Where not necessarily a special like for one show, but like it needs to never name it's not a special. It needs like an omega episode. We need like an omega episode where we talk about tons of stuff, right? Like it's proper 2 hour, 2.5. It's just all different things because that's the type of data that's required to get us to advance, and maybe or maybe not, it might or might not exist. So yeah, that's all for today. However, not gonna do too much else. Thank y'all for watching, and see y'all tomorrow for something. I haven't figured out what yet. Let's see what drops tonight.